episode of Surviving the Survivor, we bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, SDS Nation, and welcome to Surviving the Survivor, the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime on trending criminal cases and cases that make you scratch your head and say, what is going on here? And this is certainly one of those cases. Back on September 19th of last year, which is not that long ago, because we're talking September of 2024, in Letcher County, Kentucky, which is a rural Appalachian county in the great state of Kentucky in the Bluegrass State, a judge, Kevin Mullins, who at the time was 54 years old, he is sitting in his chambers when his previous or former bailiff, now the sheriff of Letcher County, walks in and essentially assassinates the judge, shooting him. I believe it was 8 gunshots that struck him and ultimately killed him. The accused is, again, former Sheriff Shawn Mickey Stines, 43, Judge Kevin Mullins, 54 years old. He was a longtime district judge for the 47th Judicial District in Kentucky. And so on the show today, and we did invite Elizabeth Jones, a.k.a. Hillbilly Crime. She seems to be a little MIA, which is not unusual considering it is Memorial Day. But we have here best guest. You're looking at him, the General Mark Davidson. Not everyone goes by the General, but he does. And he is an active DA for 5 different counties in rural areas of Tennessee. And then, not that Mark is not, but Gavin is a friend. I hung out with him in the city of brotherly love. And look at Gavin is looking very good here, I must say. He's got the new background, the blue light. And Gavin, I don't want to embarrass you, but you also look like you've dropped a significant amount of weight. What's going on here?
No, I think my hair has gotten bigger and it just makes my face look smaller.
Yeah. That's always a good thing. So just very quickly, by the way, everyone's asking me, no offense to these two guys, but typically Fridays, it's Fun Fridays with Phil and Scott. We are still friends. As a matter of fact, I think that, there is brotherly love there. Speaking of brotherly love, maybe Uncle Phil love. They are back next week. Phil is now back in Hawaii. Scott had a lot of travel and he was a speaker and he had a conference going on. So he's back next week with Phil and Scott. And the only difference next week is we start at 5 p.m. Eastern time because Phil is on the big island in Hawaii where it is much earlier. And so we have to do it in the afternoon, which is typically what we do when Phil, who is the real life Magnum PI, by the way, he a homicide detective, drives a red Ferrari. He wears a fedora and or a Detroit Tigers baseball cap. And he drives his Ferrari either around Hawaii or when he's back home in Houston. He's now gotten himself a second Ferrari. So he calls it the red car and the yellow car. And he's got the red car in Hawaii.
He's telling me it's a 328. It's got to be an 80s vintage Ferrari.
I think it is. I know nothing about cars, but I think it is. I think it is like the Magnum PI type car. So I'll find out. In general, I got to ask you, since you're a general, do you have more than 2 Ferraris at your residence? More or less than 2 Ferraris?
Much less than 2. I'm a public servant, so I have a few Toyotas. And a Chevy truck.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So, but you've got happiness and you've got the respect of being the general for sure. All right. As you can tell, it's Friday. I'm in a loopy mood, and we're going in. By the way, Memorial Day is to remember our fallen, and so we should be doing that. It's while we're enjoying the weekend, which I plan to do. I took my kid to the Air and Sea show. If I may just, all right, we've probably lost half our audience already, but I took my kid to the Air and Sea show in Fort Lauderdale a few weeks ago. and it was amazing. But it took us like 3 hours just to get there once we were in Fort Lauderdale. So I found out that there's an Air and Sea show in Miami tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
Is that like a military?
yeah. It's actually, I was reading up about it, and I'm going to drag the COE too. But yeah, it's all like military, like their new planes. Plus, the Navy comes in with like ships and stuff, and they've got like
Rad.
that and like cigarette boats and like speed boats and all that kind of thing. So I don't know what better thing to do than do that, I guess, on Memorial Day. So that's what we're going to plan to do. All right. Anyway, I'll stop talking right about now. Gavin, do me a favor. Last we did this story, STS, and I know you've done it in the last few days with Hillbilly Crime. What's really kind of the newest element? We do have a new video that we're going to play in full. It's a 5-minute video that gives us a little more context, but we're also hearing a little bit about his potential defense. So, Gavin, what's the latest here?
Yeah, this case is really interesting in that a lot of stuff seems to be dripping out of Kentucky. I don't know where these news outlets are getting this stuff. This last drop was from Fox Digital. I kind of feel like maybe it's coming from the defense because it does seem to bolster the idea that Mickey Stines was under severe emotional distress, but I don't know where it's come from. The last 2 videos that we've seen are a long video. It has no sound. It's from the judge's chamber, and it is the several minutes before Mickey Stines actually stands up and kills Judge Mullins. It shows, and I think we'll probably watch it, but and it's edited. Apparently they got a much longer video, but edited it down. But it shows him making phone calls, FaceTime calls, and then the next video that came out is from from the day of the shooting. It's a body worn camera of the state police, Kentucky State Police, interviewing Mickey Stines in a hallway of the courthouse on the very floor where the judge's chambers are, and you can kind of tell how.
I'm sorry. Did you say? I'm sorry, Gavin. Is this right after the shooting? Is that?
Yeah, it's during their investigation. After the shooting, he left the courthouse, kind of wandered around, and then came back into the courthouse where he gave himself up. He was arrested.
Yeah, because I know we've seen video of him being transported, and I know I saw the video of him kind of scurrying out very, very calmly, which is even more eerie. COE, I don't know. Do you have that video, that body cam video? If not, with Gavin's permission, maybe you steal it from his YouTube channel. I don't know, but I would love to play.
And this video, Joel, is kind of in between the videos that have been released. We've seen the video where they're in the Sally Port. They've put him in the cruiser. We've seen the transportation to the Lucy County. Is it Lucy County Jail?
Letcher. Oh, the Lucy. I don't know which jail he was.
Now I'm second guessing myself, but to the other jail.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this is just before that. They're speaking to him in the hallway, and then they transport him down toward the Sally Port. It's I think it's good for the defense. I really do, and that's why I suspect that it's the defense team that let the video out.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's also, I'll say this, I have spoken and continue to speak to some people who have reached out after we've done shows, which I'm sure has happened to Gavin, but people have reached out to basically say that this is just an incredibly corrupt county, not unlike some other rural counties within Kentucky. And, there's people that are upset who are, basically on the inside, just tired of this in general. Before I get to the general, which I'm going to do in a second, Gavin, just to begin with, it is so weird that we're getting video, which we're going to play in a moment, from inside the chamber. So why the hell was there a camera inside Judge Mullins' chamber to begin with? Do we know?
Yeah, the case, this case is a direct, according to his lawyers, this is a case that is directly tied to a federal civil lawsuit from 2 women. It's one woman, her name is Sabrina Atkins, and then the other woman has passed away. So it's the estate of Jennifer Hill.
Mhm.
In that civil lawsuit, they allege that Mickey Stines' deputy, a man named Ben Fields, SA'd some of the women in the Letcher County jail when he was in charge of the ankle monitoring program. He would basically coerce them into providing sexual favors for them to be treated well. If they did not play ball, he would bust them back into jail. And so there is a civil rights lawsuit going on that names Mr. Fields and then the sheriff at the time, Mickey Stines, in his official capacity. Now, part of that lawsuit alleges that this kind of behavior was happening in the judge's chamber. She even alleged that she saw a video of the judge doing this in his chambers. And as a result of Mr. Fields pleading guilty to the criminal side of things, they placed a camera in the judge's chamber.
Yeah, this is a wild story. And again, for the first bunch of months, I guess, including to now, he's in the Leslie County Jail.
Leslie, thank you.
Yeah, Leslie County Jail. So to the general, and just to recap some of the information here, and we'll go through these videos. But again, Mickey Stines enters the judge's private chambers, and this is the video we're going to watch in a moment. Now there's a lot more kind of context to it in terms of, before what is going on. The charges here, General, he's indicted for first-degree murder of a public official, and this is eligible for the death penalty. So you're talking about a public official. He was taken into custody, as we saw, without resistance. He did plead not guilty, and he's been undergoing competency evaluations at the Kentucky Correctional Psychiatric Center. I guess periodically they are checking on him on his mental status, which we'll get into. But General, it's funny when you have a general on, you can't ask a question in general because that makes sense. But from a legal standpoint here, what is from your vantage point, what's the toughest thing for a prosecutor in prosecuting a case where the accused here is, at least at one time, a respected lawman in his own right?
Yeah, that's that's something, unfortunately, that we've done ourselves. We've indicted a few law enforcement officers in the past for various forms of misconduct. It does present a challenge, but at the same time, I think the public does like to see that you're willing to charge and prosecute other public officials for misconduct or abusing their position. So while it can be challenging, it's necessary. And especially in a case like this, we have a sheriff on video executing a judge. You have no choice but to move forward. So I don't think the prosecution, given the excellent evidence in this case, is going to have very much difficulty, overcoming that challenge of having a former law enforcement officer as a defendant.
Yeah. And Gavin, immediately after this, one of, I guess, the suppositions or the thought process was that this judge may have been doing things that he should not have been doing with Sheriff Mickey Stines' then underage daughter. I think she was 17, so I don't know if she's of legal age yet. And then possibly having that he had also spoken to the wife. And apparently Sheriff Mickey Stines showed a lot of sort of paranoia about this, just specifically in regards to that cell phone. And again, we're going to watch this video. Do we know if for sure because there was word that he had called on Judge on the judge's phone that Mickey Stines called his daughter. Do we know where all that stands with this potential interaction between the judge and his daughter?
Yes. Well, first off, the video shows him making several calls. Mickey Stines' lawyer, a man named Jeremy Bartley, has said that the calls that he made were to his aunt. He spoke to his aunt, and then he called his daughter on his phone. He did not get a response. He got the judge's phone and made the call and did speak to his daughter. And that's what Mr. Bartley has said. And that is what it appears to happen on the video that was released. Now, as far as a relationship between the judge and Mr. Stines' daughter, that appears just to be rumor at this point. It doesn't appear that nobody is saying on the record, nobody in the know is saying that there was some kind of relationship between the two. We are left to question, why would she pick up the phone, not pick up the phone when her dad called, but pick up the phone when the judge called? And I guess the reality of that is it could be there's so many possibilities, right? If you get 2 calls in a row, maybe you think there's an emergency, all the way to she's having some inappropriate relationship with the judge. The truth, we just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that is escaping us. By the way, DB Cooper, who disappeared after parachuting out of a plane, is in our chat today, and he's yelling at me to play the video, which we're going to get to. But General Mark, one more question, and then I promise we will play it. You know, I guess you deal with this to an extent because you've got jurisdiction over 5 fairly rural counties in Tennessee. But obviously, it's different than a place like where I was just in person watching the Sean Combs trial, Manhattan, where there's a gazillion people running around. So what are the obstacles here? Because, you know, people know each other, their personal relationships mixed in with business relationships just within, you know, the courthouses and the police stations. So what kind of challenge, if any, does that bring to prosecuting these sorts of cases in smaller towns?
Well, I think you've already seen an example of the difficulty it poses with the judge having to be moved to a different jurisdiction just to be held in a jail. But because these communities are so small and so interconnected, and they share so much information, my guess is you're gonna have a jury from a different part of Kentucky brought in to hear this case. I think it'd be pretty difficult to get an unbiased jury in Letcher County with 12 people who haven't formed an opinion about the case and don't have some sort of bias. So venue is obviously a challenge. I'm sure that the prosecution is prepared to address that and get a fair panel. Beyond that, evidentiary issues. There's just going to be a lot of people out in the community who are going to say that they know things and they heard things, and they heard the sheriff say this or his wife say that, and so you find yourself trying to determine what's relevant, admissible evidence that might be out there in that community versus just hearsay. And I think that gets a little bit more complicated in these rural communities.
Yeah. By the way, I don't think this statement is true, but General, if you would like to respond to this, why are judges allowed to get away with so much? Because they have, special license plates that allow them to park in special spots. But no, I don't think they do. Do you think so, General, that they're getting away with stuff?
No, sir. Judges are like a lot of public officials, are pretty closely scrutinized, certainly within their own area. In Tennessee, our Supreme Court keeps a pretty good eye on our judges. They have their own judicial code of ethics and judicial review panels. And so judges are pretty aware that people are watching what they do. Our judges, I guess like Kentucky, do have specialized plates. But beyond that kind of thing, no, judges are pretty transparent for the most part.
By the way, I wore this shirt today for Ned Smith specifically. I've been accused of whining in the past, but I am an eternal optimist. Not really, but sometimes I am. At least when I wear this shirt, I am. All right, so this video that we're going to play right now, hey,
Joel, can I hop in just before we show the video?
Yeah, please, please.
Couple things that I find pretty interesting here, and Mark was just talking about impaneling a jury. The defense in this case, which I think is completely opposite from what we would normally see, the defense wants, they're signaling that they want a Letcher County jury. And what's really interesting to me on that is, like, everybody knows who done it. Everybody knows that Mickey Stines killed Judge Mullins. So why would they why would they want a local jury? And I think the answer to that is probably sympathy. I think that within the community, the defense thinks anyway that they have some sort of advantage if they were to impanel a jury in Letcher County. And typically these kinds of things, at least from my observation, it's the prosecution, not necessarily the defense. It's like, no, let's do it here, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it's just kind of flipped on its ear.
I think, what Violet's saying, I personally think it's because they're probably fed up with the alleged prosecution, and she's talking about jury nullification. But General, what do you think? I mean, to Gavin's point, it usually is the prosecution that wants to try it in the same venue, but here it seems like the defense, according to Gavin, that they would prefer to keep it where as is.
Yeah, that is very unusual. We rarely see the defense trying to. Usually, they're the ones filing the motion, claiming that the jury pool has been tainted. They can't get a fair trial, and they need to move it out, and that creates a lot of logistical hurdles that you have to overcome. And usually, the prosecution would rather not take a case to another jurisdiction or drag a jury in from some other jurisdiction and impanel them and have them away from home for days, if not weeks. You worry that you might have some negative feedback from those folks for getting dragged out of their homes and pulled into a different county. So typically the state or the prosecution does want to try to keep the case local if they can. So this is a complete reversal of what we're used to seeing. If I'm being, well, I don't know how to say this, but it's possible the defense thinks that a local jury, they're more likely to get somebody on there who's going to be favorable to the sheriff. That would be my thinking.
Yeah. Does the panel think the sheriff was in sound mind? We're going to get to that after we watch the video, because it appears that the defense might go with some sort of insanity defense, or at least a version of one. But before we get into it, just let me break down real quick. Now, in this video, there's a little more context. It's 5 minutes long, which is long for TV purposes. Sheriff Stines, is constantly moving, pacing. There's a very tense posture, tight body language. He appears hyper alert. And according to one body language expert, he performs a threat check as he enters the chambers. He turns to look out, making sure it is quote unquote okay to act. And then he shuts the door. He is calm, but visibly uneasy. And we will, we'll continue to break it down. But Gavin, I'm going to play this. And since it is silent, I assume, you can give us some color commentary, if you will. But this is the new-ish 5-minute video from inside Judge Kevin Mullins' chambers the day that he was murdered in said chambers. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So we can talk over this a little. Gavin, who are all these other people?
So the man in the ball cap with his hand up there, and the man that is seated, they both work for they are kind of in charge of connecting people who need outpatient treatment, like drug treatment. They work in that kind of aspect for the court and for a private company. It's called ARC, I think.
I'm going to take this back a hair. I'm sorry. We're going to talk over this and do this, but you will. I'm sorry to interrupt, Gavin. I think also, correct me if I'm wrong, Gavin, but I think the guy in the cap is also the pastor.
Yes, he is. He's kind of a local pastor.
Yeah, and he's got, or a preacher, and he's got sort of a sordid past himself. I think he, I think he served some time. I have to refresh my memory with that.
Yeah, he did. And yeah, it's ARC. You can see it on his shirt there. So they had just come back from lunch here. The other two women work in the court. I can't remember in which capacity. I wish Elizabeth were here. She knows all these people.
Yeah.
But they had just come back from lunch, and Mickey had been at that lunch. And what his lawyer is saying is that Mickey believed that his wife and daughter were in danger. And according to the lawyer's argument is that it was a legitimate concern. And so for that entire day, starting, I think we had Ned Pillersdorf on last time. Mark and I were on with you, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
Ned is the lawyer for in that criminal complaint. He said that Mickey, this is a Thursday, on the Monday during his deposition for that civil trial, he was just acting off, and everybody said he had been all week. He hadn't been sleeping. He had been keeping his wife up. She had asked him to go to his aunt's house. And then prior to this, Mickey and the preacher had just been out delivering food together. So everybody says that he was on edge for the many days leading up to this. And his lawyer is saying he believed that his wife and daughter were in danger.
Yeah. And then Samantha giving us some context. The one girl sitting down works at the jail. And the lady in the window works as a court clerk. So that rounds that out. Someone said that desk is a mess. It reminds me of the COE's desk. Oh, here we go. I'm going to get the.
Yeah, don't look at my desk.
Yeah.
Keep the camera.
But now, if you notice right now, I'm going to replay it. You'll see them start to get up, sort of at the prompt of Sheriff Mickey Stines, and then he looks out to again sort of make sure the proverbial coast is clear. So here we go. He's saying something, obviously, to the pastor here. I mean, this is so crazy because this is literally the very last minutes of this judge's life. He is smoking a cigarette, by the way, which always I don't know why that always intrigues me. But see, now he's basically said, can you all get up and get out of here, essentially? And they do. They all get up, and I don't think anyone here can imagine what's next.
I think it's weird that he shut the door and then said, everybody leave.
Yeah. Any thoughts on why? I mean, this is...
I don't know.
General, let me ask you, I mean, as a prosecutor, how many times would you watch this video to see different things that I mean, are you watching this thing like 1,000 times before a case? I feel like you would.
Yes. I mean, this is the best evidence you've got in the case. And so you're expecting to play this for the jury quite a bit. So you need to know it minute by minute and be able to walk the jury through it. Because in here, you're going to, and I've looked at some of the news articles kind of talking about these latest videos, but they are chock full of evidence that the sheriff was thinking this through and had this planned out in his mind and knew exactly what he was going to do. And he's cleared the room out. And I thought the body language article was pretty interesting. I'll be curious to see if that's somebody they can get to testify at trial. But it's clear that the sheriff has got something on his mind here, and it appears to be murder.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring it all the way back here, but Gavin, I'm sorry. I was trying to pause it right here because you can see this last minute or so, or 30 seconds. He's just been looking and playing with his phone. But go.
This is we did an exercise of zooming up and stuff like that. I believe that this phone call, you can see that he's FaceTiming. He's looking at himself right here. And the moment that the person on the other end picks up, you can actually see the screen change. You can watch it here in just a moment right there. And we believe that this is his aunt, that he's talking with his aunt. He's FaceTiming her on this call.
And why the aunt again? Do we know? Like what?
I understand that he had been staying with her as he had been kind of dealing with this insomnia that he had been dealing with for the previous couple of weeks. In order for his wife and daughter to get some sleep, he was asked to go elsewhere during the night because he was making a racket during the night. That's what I understand. So I think his aunt was just a trusted family member that he was staying with her.
Wow. And right here is why I paused it, because right before here, this is where he's got the phone to his ear. He's going to put it down, and now he takes kind of like an offensive posture here. Right here. Maybe right here. Maybe right here. There we go. Now he's like leaning forward General, back to you. You just said this is obviously the strongest evidence the government's going to have at trial. I know, obviously, you haven't had too much time to think about it. How often do you play this, and do you have to break it up? Do you play it through? I mean, would you play the 5 minutes for the jurors and then, play every like kind of 30-second increment? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I would. They're going to see this multiple times. I would anticipate that the defense will try to make some use of this, particularly the phone calls, to try to establish that there was something going on in the sheriff's mind that was emotionally distressing. So you can anticipate the defense is going to be playing quite a bit of this. So I would just go on ahead and roll it out in my case in chief. Play all of the video that I have at my disposal that I think is relevant to both his mental state and the fact that he premeditated this murder. So the jury's going to see it a lot. So I wouldn't hold back. I would roll it all out in my case in chief.
Yeah. And by the way, just back to the Sean Combs case, because I was there, the strongest evidence there is video of Sean Diddy Combs beating Cassie Ventura in the lobby of a hotel in 2016. And the government is
they went right to that.
Yeah. And they're going back to it
yes.
as often as they can.
Yes.
So this right here, you can see that's his daughter's contact card on his phone. At least I believe it is. That last phone call was where he was trying to contact his daughter. He couldn't contact her. He's now got the judge's phone in his hand, and you can see him looking at her contact card on his phone and dialing in the number on the judge's. So that whole thought that in the beginning that the judge had his daughter's contact in his phone does not appear to be the case. It appears to me that he's dialing it in. If you watch him,
I missed the part. Does he ask the judge? I'm going to take it back a little bit. Does he ask? So he asked the judge for his phone at this point?
Well, he kind of points at him. To me, it's really it's aggressive, and the judge doesn't even like break a sweat. He said, "Yeah, here's my phone."
Yeah, I don't think the judge has any. I don't think the judge has any sense of what's about to happen here.
No, and there it is. It was in his pocket, and he hands him the phone. Again, I just can't get over the fact. You always hear like 1 minute they're here, the next minute they're gone. How fragile life is, guys. This was definitely the last cigarette he's ever having, but it's the last of everything he's ever. I mean, it's eerie. It's difficult to watch, knowing what's coming.
The judge, at least from what I understand from locals, he is known as a person who has a concealed carry. I mean, this is rural Eastern Kentucky, right? Like, might as well say Western Pennsylvania. Everybody has a concealed carry. But he was known to have carried like a snub-nosed 38. It was on his person at all times. And when we get past this part right here, it doesn't take very long for Mickey to stand up and show his weapon, like move his shirt out of the way like an old Western, getting ready to draw. And the thing that strikes me, it's right here.
There we go. Yep, right there. He sees is that the weapon on the right side?
Means you harm, man. Like if you are, this is the time to run.
Oh, he just pulls it out. Yeah, I mean, there's nowhere to. He blocks the door, tells him to sit down there. I'm going to take it back a hair here. So here's where he gets up, and he's going to show the sidearm.
And bang.
Look at that.
That is a scary moment.
Yeah,
that's premeditation.
But yeah, there you go. Because we're going to get into that in a minute. You just heard the general say premeditation, but right here he's got the gun out. But to your point, Gavin, if he had this snub-nosed 38, and not being a gun guy, I have no idea what that means other than what it sounds like. But if he did in fact carry it all the time, why don't you? I mean, I guess you're just frozen in sort of disbelief. But any thoughts as to why he did not draw his firearm?
Well, actually, yeah. Now that you've said that out loud, the police in the next video that we're gonna see say that the only weapon that they found in the room was Mickey Stines, or the only weapon that they had was Mickey Stines. So I don't think the judge had it on him at this time, but he was known to carry. And to me, like as a person, I'm not like a gun enthusiast, but I am a self-defense enthusiast, and I do own guns.
Mhm.
You like there are all the signs that somebody means to do you harm, and I don't want to like just full on pile on the judge, but
Mhm.
in the spirit of learning something here, if somebody stands up and moves their shirt out of the way so they can draw a weapon, that person means you harm. At
Mhm.
that moment, that is the time to run, hide, fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that the judge here just was in complete denial of what was happening. I mean, the man has his service weapon in his hand right now.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. This is my own take. By the way, the COE chimed in saying that she actually thinks that he appears very calm, not fidgety, till like right about here. But he's a big dude, obviously, Sheriff Mickey Stines. And by the way, this is after he shed apparently a lot of weight. But he walks towards the door, so he's not getting out of that room unless he goes through the window or tries to tackle him. But yeah, Breeze saying this, which is exactly what I would be thinking, which is the wrong thing. Who would think he'd shoot, right? But he does, and so
No, I
uh,
think if somebody draws a weapon, they mean to harm you.
mm,
I mean, that is, you know, when you're training in self-defense in firearms, the standard thing that you have to that I mean is drilled into you is 21 feet.
mhm,
A person can close 21 feet faster than you can draw, aim, and fire.
mm,
Right. So like he he is within what 7 or 8 feet here.
mhm.
He means him harm. The judge had a chance. I just don't think that he had any idea. Like he wasn't prepared for it. He wasn't mentally prepared for it.
But what do you, I mean, knowing that he didn't have the weapon now, according to law enforcement, what do you think he should have just tried to tackle him or rush him? And is that what you're
I
saying?
think in the absence of a place to flee and the absence of a place to hide, the only option he had was to fight.
Mm,
And I tell my viewers all the time, you just can't do this. And the what will happen is unless you train for something like this and you practice for something like this, your instinct will kick in and you will most likely do what the judge did here. I mean, this
yeah,
is the natural human reaction.
yeah. Unfortunate because it was a reaction that cost him his life. Not to say that if he rushed him that he wouldn't have been killed either, but he might have. Not necessarily if it is a sheriff who you've been friends with a long time, you aren't expecting him to do it. That is true. By the way, I know when we do these shows, a lot of people from the Kentucky area are watching. So welcome to Surviving the Survivor. Now, we typically do our shows Monday to Thursday at 7, and then on Fridays a little earlier in the day. But all right, let me play out the rest of this video now. So this is the moment of truth. This is now where he stands up, and you see he takes that angle to basically cut off the doorway. Um, Shows right there, he's showing that firearm. This is like a lion showing its teeth before it attacks, pulls the firearm. So now he gets up and he says, "Sit down." I don't remember this part because we saw the shorter video, but I don't remember any part where he gets up and now he locks the door. Wow.
And this is about the spot that we
You have
come
seen
in
from,
at the video that
yeah.
we saw before.
Wow. So it gets heated. But
And
it's,
and Mark, I mean, he's moving over there to block the door. That is a tactical move, right? That
Yeah, so I think you have two issues here with the judge. Number one, he's so familiar with the sheriff; they've worked together so long, they've been friends for so long. So I think mentally the judge just could not anticipate or expect or believe that he was in imminent danger until it was too late. By the time he figures this out, the sheriff has got his gun in his hand, is advancing to close the door and block the exit. And the other thing, other than being friends and longtime colleagues and acquaintances, the dynamic in this relationship, the judge is a lawyer. He's used to being in charge of the courtroom. He's used to people taking direction from him, particularly the sheriff, who has worked as his bailiff, who is used to serving the judge in a professional capacity for many, many years. So the judge is used to people taking what he says at face value and doing as he instructs. And that includes an entire courtroom of people, including the sheriff. And what you see the judge do here when he realizes the danger, he's trying to talk the sheriff out of it and talk him down. And that's what you would expect a judge to do rather than try to fight. I think it's normal to anticipate this judge to try to say, look here, sheriff, I don't know what your problem is, but you need to slow down here. We need to talk this out, and expect that the sheriff might listen to him, which is not the case at all.
Yeah, and that there again was that moment where he tells him to sit his behind back down. And this is all stuff that we had not seen. So we pick it up after, like, basically what we've seen previously was once he tells him to sit down, it sort of picks up from that point. But again, see what this is a big dude here. I mean, they're both big guys, I think, but the firearm again is out, and now he pulls it out of the holster. Boom. So like it's on now. And he does try to make a move there, Gavin, but is told to sit down. You got a guy with a weapon right there. But we cut this because obviously we're not going to show. And there he locks the door, which to the general's point shows competency and premeditation. I'm going to get to that right now.
And that he knows right from wrong.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to get to. So I guess the COE brought that back up. Oh, yep. I think that's the end of the video. But Jeremy Bartley, as Gavin mentioned earlier, is the defense attorney for Sheriff Mickey Stines. This is the beginning of the video now. So he's the defense attorney general, and he claims that Sheriff Mickey Stines was mentally deteriorating because of a few things. Number one, alleged threats against his family. And keep in mind, he was deposed 3 days before this for basically turning a blind eye to a guy named Deputy Ben Fields, who was essaying at least a few women that we know of. And the guy only ended up serving 6 months, by the way. So there's a series of things that the defense is alleging, that he is worried about threats against his family, that he felt pressure not to speak during this civil deposition that was all tied to the courthouse essay allegations. And of course, this deposition, just in general. And according to the attorneys who, the proceedings with this deposition, they said that the courthouse operated like a brothel. So there's some really shady, crazy stuff going on here. But to the insanity defense, is that going to be a failed attempt in your opinion, General, and why?
Yes, it will be a failed attempt. I believe that pursuing an insanity defense is a long shot, but it may help with the jury to try to raise the bar. And if you claim that he didn't know right from wrong and he's so mentally disturbed that he had to be insane, the jury's probably not going to buy that, but they might buy something less, that he was emotionally disturbed. Maybe you think you're increasing your chances at a lesser included conviction, or that this will get you below the death penalty and get you into some conviction that is parole eligible. So, they have to know that that's a long shot defense. There's just so much evidence here that this sheriff knew exactly what he was going to do and follow through on his plan. But because this is not a whodunit, we know exactly who did it. We know exactly how he did it. That doesn't leave the defense much room, right? They can't contest the fact of what happened and the who killed the judge. So you're kind of stuck with this mental defense, which Kentucky state law does provide that avenue for severe emotional distress, potentially knocking this down to some type of manslaughter. So I think that's where they're headed. They just need one juror, right? One or two jurors to buy into this idea that the sheriff was out of his mind. But the evidence really, really leans against that. So I think that's going to be a failed defense.
Here's your one juror, General, right here, Angie Crawford. It wasn't premeditated. So, I guess you can convince a juror. You got a tough job, General. Go ahead.
I think it's important to talk about what premeditation is, though, because a lot of people believe that premeditation is some sort of like arch nemesis to a superhero spending all their time in Arkham trying to figure out the perfect crime, when really premeditation can happen in the moment.
Mhm.
There's no minimum amount of time under the law, at least that I'm aware of as a non-lawyer, to premeditate a crime. It can happen in an instant. And when the general is saying, hey, that's premeditation, he stood up like a cowboy, furling back his riding coat, shows his sidearm. He has decided in that moment, I'm going to shoot this guy, and it only takes him another 30 seconds. To me, I'm with the general. That's premeditation.
Yeah. What about this, General, from Jimmy McNutty? I have to say this every time, and people get annoyed. Longtime trial watcher since the OJ days. Sudden passion would be the only defense I can see without audio. Jimmy may as well be an attorney because, like I said, he's been watching trials for over 30 years, and he is particularly intrigued with the Karen Reed trial, which we are not partaking in that circus. But it's a high bar for insanity. But what about that? What about just a crime of passion? Does that lead you towards more of a manslaughter type sentence?
Yes. And yes, if you're acting under severe emotional distress or a state of passion, that can get you below first degree premeditated murder and into a lesser homicide offense, which may very well, it would get you out of the death penalty, may get you parole eligible. So yes, that's what they're going for here. I think the odds of a not guilty are zero. And the odds of an insanity defense are near zero. So your next best, and insanity would have you walking out of the courtroom a free man, right? If you don't know right from wrong, and you might go to, I don't know, Kentucky's set up for mental health, and if you're found guilty by reason of insanity, whether or not that commits you, maybe it does. I know in Tennessee we've kind of done away with a lot of our mental health facilities, and so.
Hang on a sec. So are you saying there are states where if you win by insanity defense, you just walk out and you can go home and microwave your pizza or whatever? That's
a possibility, yes.
Wow.
Now in Tennessee, we would seek a commitment and argue that he poses a danger to himself or others. So that may be the plan in Kentucky, even if that defense does work, but I don't think it's not going to. There's too much evidence here that shows that he knows right from wrong. He's a sheriff. There's really no evidence that we've seen or heard that showed he is decompensated so far that he can't tell right from wrong. So I agree with Gavin. They're probably looking to try to get down to some type of passion or manslaughter. But premeditation can be formed in an instant. So I think the prosecution's got a really good case.
Yeah, by the way, shout out to McSpunky. It's his 2-year anniversary with STS. We appreciate the dedication and the loyalty. And by the way, and look, he's even welcoming the new members. And one of them, you got to give credit where credit is due with good names. James Bong. Not condoning the usage of any bong here, but I do like the creativity. Hopefully this leads to a more public friendly, less corrupt system. Let's hope so. But I think Kentucky's got some serious issues going on. Now, Gavin, before we get to the next video, and we'll keep it nice and simple today, just to, probably 10, 15 more minutes, and then we'll wrap it up on a Friday before Memorial Day. But someone was asking, who is the SAer in this group? So has there been any confirmation that the judge himself, and we had heard speculation that the judge was, look, this guy is dead, and I don't want to,
Yeah, he's not here to defend himself, is what.
Correct. He's not here to defend himself, but there are reports that he was involved in this whole, just basically disgusting cycle. What they were doing essentially, for those who are new, there's a big, drug addiction problem in this part of Kentucky, and they were basically arresting women as often and quickly as they could, and then they put them in this ankle monitor program, and to get the ankle monitor removed, it would require them to essentially have sex with these people, and that would move along the process. So do we know, Gavin, if the judge was partaking in any of this yet?
We don't know. Beyond they're in the investigation that the Attorney General's office did in the, I I think it's in the criminal side of things. In a proffer with Sabrina Hill, who's one of the plaintiffs in the civil case, she says in that proffer that she has seen a video of the judge doing that, partaking in that in his own chamber. She is able to identify the chamber by that quilt. I guess that's the only person who has said on the record that was happening, but there's been no proof of it. And like Mr. Pillersdorf reminded us, the judge is nowhere. He's no longer here to be able to defend himself on that. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
All right. Well, there's the answer from Gavin. Let me play this next video. This is the one that Gavin. So just to recap very quickly, he shoots this judge. He calmly walks out, but then he is arrested. And I guess, Gavin, correct me if I'm wrong, this is body cam footage of basically these first moments where he's in custody. Is that right?
That is correct. The person wearing the body cam, I'm blanking on his name right now. I should write that down. He has known Mickey since they were teenagers. So these men grew up together as kids. And you'll see another trooper enter the frame who, same kind of thing. They've known each other since they were kids. And he served as Mickey's deputy before he went off and worked for the state police.
General, before we even play it, is that a problem that you've got law enforcement who know these? I mean, because it's such a small community. What do you do about this? Because now you've got them basically investigating a friend.
Yeah, that can happen in rural areas. You know, it would be more of a problem if you had, obviously, his own department can't investigate him, but another sheriff's agency, maybe so. The Kentucky State Police, I presume, would be the agency that they would go to kind of remove that conflict scenario. Here in Tennessee, we would go to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. That doesn't mean that they won't know the sheriff. They probably have worked with him in that capacity in the Kentucky State Police. But they're professionals, and they're presumed to be able to set all that aside and do a criminal investigation and gather evidence. So I think the separation there with the state agency looking at a local department is, you know, that's not terribly unusual.
All right, here's the video now. And this is, again, the body cam footage after the arrest.
Don't kill me. No, worry about it.
I mean, this is you know, let's
here we go. Sorry about that.
I mean, this is you know, let's be fair.
Nobody's gonna lay a finger on you. I promise that.
Don't shoot me.
In the new footage, Stines can be seen looking paranoid and scanning for threats. He insisted someone was trying to kill him and asked multiple times for officers to be fair to him.
Say that again, Gavin. This is obviously
that man right there is his former deputy. They've known each other since they were kids. And then the one wearing the body-worn camera is the same deal. They've known each other since they were kids.
Yeah, if you look, I'm going to bring it back to the top, but if you watch closely, he's looking around up and down the hall. This, General, as we're watching it, strikes me as him not being in his right mind. He comes across as very paranoid and just like, he looks disturbed. I don't know how else to put it, but let's watch it and then we'll get your take, General.
Kill me. No, worry about it.
I mean, this is you know, let's be fair.
Nobody's gonna lay a finger on you. I promise that.
Don't shoot me.
In the new footage, Stines can be seen looking paranoid and scanning for threats. He insisted someone was trying to kill him and asked multiple times for officers to be fair to him. During the police questioning, Stines asked to be jailed in Letcher County, mere steps away from the courthouse, rather than risk being transported to another facility, telling police, quote, "I leave this building, I won't take another breath."
So listen, do you want to tell us what happened? That's up to you. I'm not trying to force you. It's up to you if you want to tell us what happened. I mean, like I said, something led up to this. It just didn't happen. We would just like to know why it transpired this way. If you don't want to, that's up to you. Okay.
You're not gonna kill me.
No.
All right, so that's the end of that video. I'm going to play it back with no sound, but General, you know, I mean, if I'm his defense attorney, I'm going to play this. I'm going to say, look, I mean, look at this guy. This guy, I mean, one thing he doesn't do also, by the way, is he shows zero remorse, right? I mean, which I guess is expected, but it doesn't appear that he's too upset about having just murdered somebody, but he does seem concerned about his own imminent potential death. General.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of saying the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. I think the sheriff is just trying to stay in his local jail here. He's trying to advocate for don't take me somewhere else. I want to stay right here. I know my people. I know this place, and if y'all take me out of here, I'm gonna be harmed or shot or killed or whatever. He's not. He seems to be declining to answer the questions. They're seeking a motive here. And I did want to point out to one of Gavin's points about premeditation. When we try a case to convict somebody of a homicide, it's nice to have a motive, but that's not required under the law. So jurors want to know, police want to know. I mean, that's just normal. That's a very normal reaction. Why did you do this? And jurors really would love to know that, but that we don't have to prove that. That's nice if we can. But at the end of the day, what the state has to prove in this case is that the sheriff knew what he was doing. He knowingly and intentionally murdered the judge. He didn't threaten him. He didn't try to cower him. He didn't try to wound him. He unloaded an entire clip in him. After he went through all of these actions, which are indicative of premeditation and planning. So I think what you're seeing here is the sheriff just trying to look after his best interest and try to convince what used to be his friends that he needs to stay in the local jail.
Yeah. By the way, Alice Reiterfeld is a friend of the show, been an active member a long time, but she's also an attorney in Miami, and she's saying the cop, meaning Sheriff Mickey Stines, doesn't seem. Oh, I'm sorry, not Mickey Stines. The deputy speaking, the friend, doesn't want him to really talk, and this is the part I kind of noticed this too. He's kind of caveating what he's saying with, you don't have to tell us. So watch this. Oh, it's muted.
Do you want to tell us what happened? Do you want to tell us what happened? That's up to you. I'm not trying to force you. It's up to you if you want to tell us what happened. I mean, like I said, something led up to this. It just didn't happen. We would just like to know why.
Yeah, I mean, Gavin, I guess if you're reading into it, maybe as a friend, he's saying, don't talk right now, but maybe that's not what's going on. Go, Gavin, real quick. He says, y'all, I don't know if this is right here. This is in the car ride. There's more footage of him, and eventually when they start to take him to the jail and he's in the back of the cruiser, and he says, y'all are going to kill me. Just get it over with. I mean, this is disturbing. To say the least. Everything about this is disturbing, but I don't know, for lack of a better term, how normal or okay he is at this point. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, on the extended video, he kind of doubles down there. During this part of the video, it does kind of seem like, he's just kind of a little worried about his safety. But when they start taking him downstairs, he does visibly to me and convincingly to me start to panic. Like he's looking around corners. He's saying, no, don't take me through there. You guys are fixing to kill me, stuff like that. I don't know if he is, because he does control the conversation throughout this whole thing. Every time he's about to talk about something to answer their question, he can completely derail their questioning by just saying, y'all want to kill me. And then they trip over themselves to try to convince him that they're not going to. As far as the other question about, does this state trooper not want him to answer the question? I believe that the state police here were actually doing they were doing a good investigation. They have a suspect that they're questioning who himself is a police officer. And I think that their line of questioning, the way that they're going to approach that questioning, is going to be very different from somebody who doesn't know things like what it means to remain silent and what it means to avail yourself of your rights. So I think those guys were I guess, legitimately looking for a motive. They were looking for a reason why they wanted Mickey to talk. They just went about it in a different way because he's one of them.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's tripping me up still on top of a lot of other things is this whole thing with his daughter and his wife, because the wife comes into it. By the way, Pickleball Paul always here. Officers emphasize this to not have to talk. To be sure, it is in case they to show that they didn't coerce standard operating procedure. Here's another bit of speculation from Beach Bum, another old friend of the show. In my opinion, he was involved in the scandal, meaning Mickey Stines, the sheriff, and he's terrified of getting found out. And that is why he hasn't slept and has become delusional. He will lose his wife and daughter if they find out. So, I mean, Gavin, it's possible he's asking to look at the judge's phone, not to see if the judge necessarily was doing something with the daughter or even the wife potentially, but just to see if he had communicated anything in general to the wife and or daughter, because it sounds like he doesn't want them to know if this presumption is correct, and we don't know that it is, that maybe Sheriff Stines also was involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that are, what am I trying to say? That believe that Mickey Stines probably was involved in this kind of inner circle of people that were doing horrible things in the courthouse, that it was a danger to that group for him to be deposed, and they were worried about him saying something that would let on that everybody is part of it. I mean, people are coming up with these theories. His lawyer, Mr. Bartley, just simply says he had a legitimate fear that something was going to happen to his wife and daughter.
Yeah, that intrigues me. Because attorney, yeah, I'm just looking at some of the comments here. General, back to you, and we'll get some final thoughts in just a moment. In terms of this deposition, so again, he was deposed, Mickey Stines, the sheriff, was 3 days before this, about one of his deputies, this guy Ben Fields, who ended up going to prison. And then someone in the chat said that his wife worked at the prison, so he got a flat screen TV, and he was in and out within 6 months. So that's kind of crazy. But what part, if any, does this civil lawsuit play in the criminal case? Because now this deposition is essentially evidence in a criminal case. So does that all come in now when this goes to trial, if it does?
So as it stands today, the deposition is not evidence in a criminal case today. It's simply a deposition in a civil case. I would anticipate that the defense will try to make that evidence in the criminal case to try to, make that part of the bricks they're laying to convince a jury that he was suffering under severe emotional distress. The lawsuit was influencing his thought process and was weighing on him to such a degree that he became mentally unstable and decompensated into this passion killing or this, I don't know, right from wrong killing. So I would anticipate it's probably going to come in. I still struggle with this idea that the civil lawsuit pushed the sheriff into this situation. I mean, sheriffs get sued a lot, and they have law firms that represent them. The counties, typically Letcher County probably has a private law firm that they contract with to help defend these kind of lawsuits. And so litigation as a sheriff or a DA or even a judge is not an uncommon thing. I think it's entirely plausible that the defense is going to make as much out of this as they can and try to say that the judge was somehow involved in this and the sheriff was decompensated because of it. So I do expect it will come into play.
This is an interesting comment here. See you later. Tony, these are like license plates. I was going to say like Kaya Lauder, but then I understood it to be see you later. I'm glad I didn't say Kaya Lauder. Gavin Fish, Mickey's attorney asked during the arraignment whether Kentucky State Police was aware of any legal action taken by the sheriff against the judge. Do we know anything about this? Because that would be interesting. I haven't heard anything about it.
Okay, well, Preliminary arraignments like that are really interesting to me because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. Mark will know way more about this than I do. But as an observer, when I go into these preliminary hearings, this seems to be the only time in the judicial system where the prosecution knows tons and the defense really doesn't know anything. They're going into it. They don't know what evidence they have against their client. It's during this hearing that it's going to be presented. So I think that Mr. Bartley was really just kind of trying to ask questions to gather information. It's a very different thing than in almost any other hearing, or certainly in the trial, where both sides are prepared with discovery. They have a plan. They know each other's plans, right? And they've prepared to counter each other's plans. That's not the way it is in a preliminary hearing.
Yeah. By the way, do we know, Gavin, if obviously we have a muted version of the chamber video, but do we know if there's any audio related to that?
There's no audio in the judge's chamber.
Okay, there you go. That's an issue. Another question, General, and then we'll get some final thoughts. Someone asked, is Mickey Stines on drugs? Which made me wonder, you could be. Would it be part of the protocol here to drug test him at the jail to see if he was under the influence of something when this crime was committed, or no?
I would think that they would maybe have asked him to consent to a blood draw to try to determine that. And if he refused, they could have sought a search warrant to try to get his blood. I don't know what happened there. As Gavin points out, that may be something we learn later on. When these cases are first charged, and it's set pretty quickly for a preliminary hearing, as Gavin pointed out, at that stage, the prosecution is just a probable cause hearing. And they know what evidence they have to get through that. There has been no discovery at that stage. The defense has no right to discovery at that stage. So the defense typically is operating a bit in the dark at a preliminary hearing, and they will use that hearing as a discovery tool to try to learn about the state's case. And likewise, the state, knowing that, will try to get to probable cause and then say to the judge, this is just a probable cause hearing. This is not a hearing for the defense to learn about our entire case. They can get to that later during the discovery process. So Gavin's right about that. So that's not unusual.
COE, what was that comment that was just up there? But while we're figuring that one out, Gavin, let me come to you with a final question, and then we'll get your final thoughts. For those who do not know, Gavin Fish is a very talented investigative reporter. He and I met on a case that he has really led the charge on, along with some reporters from the Philadelphia Inquirer. But Gavin has dug very deep into the Ellen Greenberg case, which it's a story that Nancy Grace has just written a book about. Nancy is supposed to come on the show, but we've been mired in Sean Diddy Combs stuff. But we'll get Nancy on to talk Ellen Greenberg, which hopefully that story gets some movement once again. But as far as we know, Gavin, have any, and by the way, he's got a great YouTube channel, Gavin Fish, check it out. Have any women come forward? You would think in a case like this, I don't have to go too far. Sean Diddy Combs, here in Miami, the Alexander brothers, Harvey Weinstein. The minute these guys get, basically outed by one woman, there's like a floodgate of women. But maybe it's different in rural Kentucky. Do we know if other women have been coming forward to say, yeah, this is disgusting behavior, that these people in a position of power were basically having their way with us, in this drug program where they were releasing us from our ankle monitors in exchange for sex? Have other women been coming forward that we know of?
To my knowledge, there haven't been any other that have come public. Now, just like you, I have people that reach out to me. They will make allegations, and usually that allegation is coupled with the requirement that they have everything off the record, right? It seems to me that everybody is really afraid of any type of retaliation or repercussions down there in Letcher County. And that's why I said in the beginning just how proud I was of Sabrina Atkins and Jennifer Hill. That took a lot of courage to go to an attorney and say, look, this is what has happened to me. That takes an incredible amount of courage. Now, Ned Pillersdorf, the last time he was on the show with us here on your channel, Joel, and then later when he came on my channel, he repeated his belief that if there are two women, and actually there were three, in Ben Field's case, there were three. The third one was granted anonymity. But if there are three women, according to Pillersdorf, there are 30 women, right? It doesn't just happen in a vacuum. So I believe that there are more. And I would hope that if there are, and they have proof, for example, the Facebook messages, the text messages, things like that, that they would reach out to an attorney and thoughtfully and carefully, take legal action.
Angie Crawford, thank you, Gavin. Angie Crawford saying the sheriff they put in after Mickey won't last. Once a vote happens, he won't be there. No one likes him. There you go. So there's continued issues. The bottom line here, no matter which way you slice it, there is corruption in this county, Letcher County, Kentucky, which needs to be basically, excised from the community. And hopefully, at least if there's any silver lining in this, is that they will hopefully clean up the corruption. But I know that is, like rainbows and unicorns. Sometimes it's wishful thinking. Beach Bum here. Love Gavin. Highly recommend his channel. Come chat with us there. There you go. By the way, we are redirecting you to our second channel, which is STS Talk, the best talk in true crime. And Rob D'Amico, a former retired FBI hostage rescue team member. They are the baddies of the FBI, as my daughters would say. He's hosting a show that we're going to redirect you to. At one point, Rob D'Amico told me that he would have to fire 100,000 rounds of ammunition a year for training, which is an insane amount of. And by the way, I love telling this story. When that whole DC sniper story happened, where they're looking for the snipers in Washington, D.C., I guess in the early 2000s, Rob D'Amico was in a helicopter hanging off the side with his own sniper rifle looking for the snipers. So he was trying to sniper the snipers leaning out of a helicopter, which I have no idea how you can do that, because it seems like it's unsteady. But what do I know about snipers? Absolutely nothing. We've got Tuli Pool in the chat from the Kingdom of Lesotho, which is a landlocked country surrounded by South Africa. Who else can say that? Gavin, do you have the Kingdom of Lesotho in your chat?
No, I don't. But I have the Royal Order of the Franks, so I do have some royalty in my chat.
Well, happy to share. Tuli Pool, check out Gavin's channel. Last but certainly not least, you got the General Mark Davidson, a stand-up guy who is an active DA for 5 rural counties in the great state of Tennessee. Mark, your final thoughts here. Does this go to trial? You said he's going to get convicted. If it does, how much prison time would a guy like this serve, do you think? And your final thoughts.
Well, that'll be up to the jury. If it's a death penalty case, that would be an option. From there, you go to life without parole. The sheriff would want to avoid either one of those at all costs. So you're shooting for life with a possibility of parole, or hope. I'm sure the sheriff and his defense team would think a manslaughter charge is what they really want here. I see zero chance of a jury just letting the sheriff go, given the video in this case and the clear evidence of an intent to kill. So this is a homicide case, and I would certainly expect a homicide conviction, but the jury's still out on whether or not what kind of mental health defense evidence they're going to be able to put up, and try to get that 1 or 2 jurors to buy into some type of mental health issue and compromise the verdict and get it down below a first-degree murder.
Lindsay Gandy, friend of mine, apparently a friend of Gavin's, an all-around great human being that I need to reconnect with. Not sure if I can say this, and I'll probably get in trouble, but her husband is in the military, and he's got a job that very few do. This is Memorial Day weekend. Put it this way, her husband is the best and the brightest in the military. It's Memorial Day weekend. The COE called me, and I think we all get into the habit on the way back from the gym just now, and she started going into some things that we have to take care of, at which point I said to her, COE, I cannot talk about true crime this weekend. So my recommendation to everybody, take a little break, hang out with your dog, hang out with your goldfish, hang out with your cats, because I'll get in trouble if I don't say cats. If you don't know, Gavin is like, how tall are you? Like 6'4", and the guy's got 6 kids, right? 6 kids.
It's a little bit of an exaggeration. 6'2".
Oh, 6'2".
5 kids. No, but you know what? Our oldest is married, so that makes that we have 6 now.
Wow, it's crazy. Gavin looks too young to have a married child. But anyway, hang out with your kids. General Mark, hang out, watch sports. Don't watch true crime. Try to just chill out. And that's my advice to everybody. Gavin, I'll say this. Any final words? It is Memorial Day. Your final thoughts to the audience about Memorial Day, about this weekend, not about anything else, or anything else I guess you want to bring up other than true crime. Other than true crime.
Something other than true crime? Yeah, my plan this weekend is to not work. We got paddle boards as a family, and my wife got a bunch of paddle boards for Mother's Day, so we're going to be out on the water with kayaks and canoes and paddle boards with the family this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to the rest.
Yeah, by the way, Jimmy McNutty, perhaps the best part about this, 5 days off from the Karen Reed circus nonsense that I have to listen to on X all day long. General, you are the general. Yeah, by the way, but if you do watch, replay our shows that you missed, and Gavin's too. General Mark, anything related that's not related to true crime? It is Memorial Day weekend. You are a general. You are a public servant. What is your advice to the good Americans and Lesotho Kingdomers who are watching us?
Yeah, I would just ask everybody to remember that your day at the beach this weekend or this summer is because of their day on the beach, whether it was D-Day or something else, and just be thankful and remember and enjoy your loved ones. That's what I plan to do, and probably do some yard work. So
the COE says, Joel, you can wrap when you're ready. I was gonna go to 4th of July and then Labor Day and get our thoughts on those too, but I guess I'll stop now. Gavin, have a great weekend. General Mark, have a great weekend. Thank you for being here. I consider STS a family. Love you, America. Love you, Tennessee. Love you, the great state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Get justice for Ellen Greenberg, for God's sakes. It's been 2011. That family and Ellen needs justice. And have fun this weekend. Remember, be an optimist. I'm an optimist. Okay. We're redirecting you all to our show, the other show on the other channel with Rob D'Amico. See you on Tuesday. No Diddy, no Karen Reed. Thank God for that.